First dates. They can feel like a thrilling adventure or like walking into a high-stakes interview. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and you start rehearsing lines in your head. What should I say? What if I say the wrong thing? What if there's awkward silence? We've all been there. The truth is, first dates are both exciting and nerve-wracking because they carry the possibility of something new, something meaningful, maybe even life-changing. And that mix of hope and pressure can make us overthink or worse, freeze up completely. But here's the good news. Attraction, connection, even comfort, none of it is left entirely to chance. There are simple, practical tips grounded in psychology and human behavior that can make a first date feel less like a test and more like an opportunity to be present, to connect, and to see if there's a spark worth exploring. In this talk, we'll walk through strategies that actually work, how to prepare without overplanning, how to make a strong first impression, how to keep conversation natural, how to handle those awkward pauses, and finally, how to end the date in a way that leaves the right impression. These aren't gimmicks or cheesy tricks. They're habits, small shifts in mindset that make a big difference. Because at the end of the day, the best first date isn't about being perfect. It's about being authentic, relaxed, and genuinely curious about the person sitting across from you. Preparation is everything. Think about it. When you walk into a date feeling calm, confident, and ready, the whole experience feels lighter. But when you rush in unprepared, unsure, or second-guessing yourself, that nervous energy shows. So, let's start with something simple, the location. Choose a place where you can actually talk, hear each other, and relax. A quiet cafe, a cozy restaurant, or even a walk in the park can work far better than a loud bar or a movie theater where silence is required. The environment sets the stage for connection. Next comes presentation. Dress in a way that feels comfortable, but also shows effort. You don't need to reinvent yourself or wear something that feels unnatural. Instead, think of it this way. Your outfit should reflect your personality while signaling that you care enough to put thought into the moment. That balance, authentic yet polished, goes a long way. And here's the mindset shift. Don't walk into a date thinking, I have to impress them. Instead, reframe it as, I'm curious about this person and I want to see if we click. Lowering the pressure allows you to relax, which in turn makes you more attractive. Remember, preparation isn't about building a perfect script or controlling every detail. It's about setting yourself up so you feel comfortable, confident, and ready to enjoy the experience. When you do that, the rest flows so much more naturally. The first few moments of a date can set the tone for everything that follows. Studies show it takes just a few seconds, literally seconds, for someone to form an impression of you. That might sound intimidating, but it's actually empowering because small, intentional choices in those first moments can make a big difference. Start with the basics. Arrive on time. Punctuality sends a powerful message. It shows respect, reliability, and genuine interest. Walking in late, flustered, or distracted gives the impression that this meeting wasn't a priority, but arriving calmly, on time, sets a positive foundation before you've even said a word. Then comes body language. A warm smile, steady eye contact, and open posture can instantly make you more approachable. Think of your body language as your silent introduction. It communicates confidence and friendliness long before your voice does. Avoid crossing your arms, checking your phone, or glancing around the room too much. These small signals can make you seem closed off or disinterested. And finally, the greeting itself. Whether it's a handshake, a light hug, or simply a genuine, "Hi, I'm so glad to meet you," make it sincere. Authentic warmth creates immediate comfort, and comfort is the foundation of connection. Remember, first impressions are less about perfection and more about presence. If you show up on time, relaxed, and genuinely happy to be there, you're already halfway to success. Now let's talk about the heart of any first date, the conversation. This is where many people overthink or freeze because they're so worried about saying the right thing. But here's the secret. Conversation isn't about perfect lines. It's about creating a natural flow, a rhythm that feels comfortable for both people. First, avoid the trap of turning the date into an interview. Rapid-fire questions like, where do you work? How long have you lived here? What do you do for fun? Can start to feel stiff. Instead, focus on open-ended questions, the kind that invite stories rather than one-word answers. Ask things like, what's a place you've always wanted to travel? Or, what hobby makes you lose track of time? These types of questions spark curiosity, laughter, and connection. But don't just ask, listen. Really listen. Active listening means leaning in, nodding, responding thoughtfully, and letting the other person feel heard. Nothing kills connection faster than someone who only waits for their turn to speak. And don't be afraid to share a little bit of yourself in return. A funny story, a small personal detail, a memory that relates to what they just said. It makes the conversation feel balanced and alive. And of course, sprinkle in humor. A lighthearted comment, a playful observation, even laughing at your own awkwardness. It relaxes the energy. The goal isn't to impress with clever lines. It's to make the other person feel comfortable, valued, and genuinely interested in continuing the conversation. Beyond first impressions and small talk, what really makes a first date memorable is the sense of connection. It's that moment when the conversation shifts from surface level to something a little deeper, when you stop performing and start being real. And here's the truth. Connection doesn't come from trying too hard. It comes from being curious, open, and present. Start by showing genuine interest. Ask about their passions, not just their job title. Ask about experiences that shaped them, the kind of music or books that light them up, the things that make them feel alive. When you ask from a place of curiosity, not interrogation, people feel valued. And that feeling of being seen is one of the strongest forces of attraction. But connection is a two-way street. Share small parts of yourself too. Tell a story about a childhood memory or something funny that happened this week. You don't need to reveal your deepest secrets, but giving small glimpses of your personality helps the other person feel closer to you. Vulnerability, even in small doses, builds trust. And look for common ground. It doesn't have to be something big. Maybe you both love the same coffee shop, or you both secretly enjoy terrible reality TV shows. These little overlaps spark a sense of me too, and suddenly the date feels less like strangers meeting and more like two people discovering the beginning of something real. Let's be honest, no matter how smooth you are, awkward moments on a first date are inevitable. The conversation might stall, a joke might fall flat, or there might be a stretch of silence where both of you suddenly become very aware of the ticking clock. And that's okay. Awkwardness isn't a sign of failure. It's a normal part of two people getting to know each other. What matters is how you handle it. First, don't panic. A pause in conversation doesn't mean the date is going badly. In fact, short silences give both people a chance to think, breathe, and reset. Instead of scrambling to fill every gap with nervous chatter, take a sip of your drink, smile, and let the moment pass naturally. If things feel tense, humor is your best friend. A lighthearted comment like, well, that was a dramatic pause, or guess we just had our first awkward silence, can break the tension and even create laughter. Turning the moment into something you both acknowledge makes it less scary and more human. And if a topic feels heavy or uncomfortable, don't be afraid to gently shift the conversation. Use a bridge. That's interesting. Actually, it reminds me of, and move into something lighter. Smooth transitions keep the energy flowing. Remember, awkwardness isn't the enemy. It's an opportunity to show grace, humor, and authenticity. Often, the way you handle those little bumps says more about you than the perfectly polished moments ever could. How you end a date is just as important as how you begin it. Those final minutes often leave the strongest impression, the one that lingers long after you've said goodbye. So think of the ending not as a closing scene, but as the moment that sets the tone for what comes next. First, be clear and genuine. If you enjoyed yourself, say it. A simple line like, "I had a really great time tonight, thank you," carries more weight than you might think. Gratitude is attractive. It shows kindness, warmth, and sincerity. If you'd like to see them again, don't leave it vague. Instead of, We should hang out sometime, say something more specific, like, I'd love to do this again soon, maybe next weekend. Clarity reduces confusion and makes your interest clear. On the other hand, if you don't feel a spark, be respectful. A kind thank you is better than disappearing without a word. Ghosting leaves uncertainty and often hurts more than honesty. And finally, keep the goodbye short but warm. Whether it's a handshake, a quick hug, or even just a smile and wave, make it sincere. You don't need grand gestures or dramatic promises. What matters is that you leave them with a positive, genuine feeling. Remember, the end of a date isn't the end of the story. It's either the beginning of a new chapter or a graceful closing of this one. Either way, leaving on a respectful, kind note ensures you walk away with dignity and maybe even anticipation for what comes next. So, what makes a first date truly work? It's not about perfect lines, flawless timing, or some magical formula. It's about presence. It's about showing up with curiosity, with kindness, and with the willingness to connect. When you prepare thoughtfully, when you make a warm first impression, when you let conversation flow naturally, when you stay open to genuine connection, and even when you handle those awkward silences with grace, you transform the date from something stressful into something enjoyable. The truth is, the best first dates aren't about impressing someone, they're about discovering someone. Discovering their personality, their humor, their quirks, and seeing if those pieces fit with yours. And the pressure we put on ourselves often blinds us to that simple truth. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be real.